everyone, and welcome to the movie show. I'm your host, Tyler Calkins, and today we're going to be doing a non-spoiler review for, ladies and gentlemen, it's Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. You know, it's been a busy week for Star Wars fans. You know, we've had a bit of some ups and downs. The premiere came and everyone's excited, but then, the initial social media reactions come out and they seem generally positive, but with some concerns regarding, maybe a little overstuffed, overbloated, etc. Then the actual reviews come out and your Rotten Tomato scores and that kind of stuff, which, comes with its own connotations and its own kind of headlines. And the Rotten Tomato scores and the regular reviews were generally mixed, really mixed, like rotten mix, like really problematic. It was one of the lowest rated, Star Wars films were some of the headlines we were getting earlier this week. Star Wars still pumping out the marketing, trying to keep people excited, trying to keep, this is the end of the saga. Everybody get your butts in those seats in the theaters. So, I did have some trepidation going into the film. I had some concerns. They fired their original director, and they had to, J.J. Abrams came back, and they delayed the film to try to, give them time to smooth it over. The Last Jedi was super divisive. I had concerns because these reviews were pretty much the same across the board, that, this is overstuffed, it's a little too complicated. But I watched trailers for it, and I watched the marketing for it, and I say, my God, this movie looks so fantastic. This movie looks like JJ really, hit a home run and is knocking it out of the park. What is happening here? So I go into the theaters tonight with a little, with a lot of excitement, because I love Star Wars and I've loved it since I was a kid, since I was 6 years old, and I've been watching it my entire life. And I went in with a lot of excitement, but a little bit of trepidation and a little bit of anxiety and worry that this thing was going to be a bloated mess. And I think that was valid, given everything that I had read. Let me tell you right now, I have no idea what they're talking about. This movie was fantastic. It was fantastic. If you are a fan of Star Wars, if you love science fiction opera, if you love, action, space action, it's a good movie. It is. There is shocking points to the film. There is some twists that I didn't really see coming. It doesn't fly off the handle and get super crazy, but it does dive into some mystical things. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a wonderful film. I think you should go take your friends to go see it. If you are a fan of Star Wars, this is kind of everything that you wanted. I think when The Last Jedi came out a couple years ago, we ran into a situation where, the fandom really became divided. The fandom was very much in a dark place. And, in watching it now, in watching this film and watching it after The Last Jedi, I feel like The Last Jedi was so divisive, so I feel like as soon as the headlines came out that JJ came back, it was like a sigh of relief. Oh, thank goodness. We're gonna return to form. We're gonna be back to good, right? And then, even further, JJ comes out with that title, right? You get that first teaser, which was phenomenal for this film. The teaser for The Rise of Skywalker was great. And then you get the title, The Rise of Skywalker. It's like JJ personally came to all of us Star Wars fans and gave us a hug. I really appreciated him for that. Now we're looking at The Rise of Skywalker, and I can tell you right now, I loved it. I loved that movie. I went into The Rise of Skywalker and I felt like this, and I was proven right. I said, for The Last Jedi, the critic scores were phenomenal, and the audience scores were in the garbage. And then about Tuesday, I think it was Tuesday, the Rotten Tomato scores from the critics came out for The Rise of Skywalker. And those numbers were garbage. And then the numbers came out for the audience score for The Rise of Skywalker. And those numbers were in the high 80s right now. So, to me, you're looking at a situation where, all the critics want to say that this film is garbage, but the fandom, to me, is back on board. The fandom has fallen in love with the film again. It's really kind of crazy just how split those kind of things can be. And honestly, it's the reason why I decided to start doing YouTube videos, is because I'm tired of movies that I like or love or think should be respected or applauded be garbage timed and told that they're trash. I'm told that this movie had a bunch of exposition and that it had a real problem with all the exposition is what I read in a bunch of the reviews. And honestly, yes, there's some exposition within the film. Some of it's a little bit of an exposition dump, but I think that's what happens when you have to do such heavy lifting after Last Jedi, okay? So I think that that's a requirement. However, I watched Spider-Man Far From Home earlier this year, and there's this entire scene with Mysterio where he goes on and on and on and on about whatever the reason that the entire group got formed, because they all hate Tony Stark for something that he did to each and every one of them. And they go through each of these weirdo cast members to talk about the things that happen to them, right? And nobody had a problem with that exposition. Jake Gyllenhaal can go on for 5-10 freaking minutes and talk about whatever the hell he wants, and no one seems to have a problem with it. Another things that I read in the reviews for this film were that, and don't get me wrong, it does have some pacing problems because it moves at like breakneck, lightning fast speed. It really does. It moves very quickly, and if you aren't versed in your Star Wars etiquette, you might get a little lost. You might be a little like, whoa, what is going on here? So that may happen, but let me be clear. Nobody, we all went to Endgame, right? We all went to Endgame, watched it. Endgame didn't act like you hadn't seen 23 films beforehand. Endgame very well knew, like, hey, did you watch the first films? I hope you did. Endgame can stand on its own, and I understand that, but to some extent, Endgame is very much like if you weren't paying attention or you didn't know what was going on, you would be lost. Endgame didn't get in trouble for that. Endgame wasn't told they had a problem for that. Endgame was applauded for again, being unique and special and being a culmination of the end of all this stuff. But then Star Wars comes along and does the same thing and moves at breakneck speed and expects their audience to understand where they are based on the previous 8 films that had already come out, 10 if you add Solo and Rogue One. But yet Star Wars is a big mess because they're moving too fast and it's too much exposition. This film is great. This film is something that Star Wars fans should love. Again, JJ came out and basically was like, hey, I get you. Here's a big giant hug and a big love letter to Star Wars fans because he loves Star Wars and we love Star Wars and this is what we wanted. And by the way, if that's too hoity-toity for people who feel like, oh, blockbuster filmmaking is just playing to their audience, you know what? There's loads of other blockbusters that can go have a field day. This is Star Wars. This is something that is different. It is special. It is something that is unique to cinema, to film. It is something that has never happened before, and to be fair, it seems like it will never happen again. I feel like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the only thing that is close to that. But that said, Star Wars came out in 1977 and blew the doors off of Hollywood, off of filmmaking, off of blockbusters, off of merchandising. It changed the game entirely. And that was the first go around, the first film. Endgame, while unique and special, to be fair, was 23 films of buildup. And and it's unique, do not get me wrong, it is special because it is that buildup, but to, pretend that, to pretend that they're almost the same thing is not even fair or right, because Star Wars just came out and was something special, and it's like the iPhone. There's a day before iPhone, there's a day after iPhone. There's a day before Star Wars, there's a day after Star Wars. That's why Star Wars is special. I am bewildered at the hatred for this film. I really don't get it. I loved it. Go see it. Go see this movie. It is fun. There is cool lightsaber battles. There is incredible visuals. There is amazing callbacks. It is good stuff. It is good stuff. JJ knows how to make a Star Wars movie. It's too bad he's not coming back. I think it is just entirely too much pressure. But I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. He knocked it out of the park. It's amazing to me because J.J. Abrams came out with The Force Awakens, back in 2015. And I did not think it was possible for you to reboot Star Wars. I didn't think it was possible. I really didn't. I'm like, A New Hope, you can't reboot that. It's like touching The Wizard of Oz. You don't reboot The Wizard of Oz. It's freaking The Wizard of Oz. It's freaking Star Wars. It's A New Hope. I know Star Wars purists are going to hate that I say it's A New Hope. I like to keep everything in order. That's what George Lucas called it. I didn't know how J.J. Abrams was going to reboot Star Wars. And yet Force Awakens comes out, and there he is. He did it. And I'm like, holy shit. He rebooted Star Wars. How did he even do this? And going into this film, there was such a mess of like, Jesus, Last Jedi was so divided. Carrie Fisher passed away. Real quick, there was some reviews that wanted to say that Carrie Fisher's acting was wooden. Fuck you. Trashy. That's awful. She's been dead for 2 years. It is old footage, and you're gonna make a comment like wooden after she's passed away? Like that, unbelievable. Unbelievable, the hate that just wants to be directed at this movie. I don't get it. I, for the life of me, don't understand it. So, J.J. Abrams comes out with The Force Awakens. It's impossible what he did to reboot Star Wars, especially after the prequels. And then you get this production where The Last Jedi is divisive. Mark Hamill didn't like his role. Carrie Fisher passes away. Han Solo's dead within the film. So is Luke at that point after The Last Jedi. What the hell is JJ gonna do to right the ship? I was going into this movie, again, with a little trepidation. Like, man, we have bungled the franchise. What are we doing? How can you possibly fix this? And I left the theater tonight, and he did it again. He did it again. I don't know how he did it. I do not know how he did it. Because here we are again. And somehow, he's pulled off the impossible. What are your thoughts? Go ahead, comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell all the way to the top. That way you don't miss any of my new content. As always, thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye.